This week on World Traveler Cooking, we're going to make chicken cacciatore. Now, this dish is a lovely dish from Tuscany, Italy. It is wonderfully flavorful, just absolutely delicious. So, today I'm making a fairly large amount, so the recipe will be not quite as much as I'm using. So basically the recipe I give will be for each chicken, and each chicken should be approximately 1.5 to 2 kilograms. And for each chicken you'll use an onion, a carrot. If you're using the European celery, probably one large rib or several small ribs. I'm going to use half of the smaller celery for each of these chickens. And then I would say about 2 cans of Italian whole stewed tomatoes. And we'll crush them up with our hands like we did for the amatriciana. Additionally, we will use wine. I suggest a nice Italian wine. This one is a Primitivo. Primitivo is the Italian word for Zinfandel, and so we'll go ahead and use that. So for initial preparations, I'm going to dice the onion, finely chop the vegetables. I'll put the tomatoes in a bowl and hand crush them, and I'll chop up the chicken, and I'll remove the head and feet. So that's what I'm going to do. When I get back, I will be putting each of these chickens in a different pan, and I'll only be primarily recording one pan. So if you see a second pan in the background, that's just because I'm doing twice as much as I'm showing you here. At any rate, we're also going to use quite a lot of olive oil, so make sure you have plenty of that. And of course, some salt. Anyway, let's get started. So the first step is making the sofrito. So we're going to add a nice generous amount of olive oil to our pan. And then we're going to add the vegetables. And we're going to saute these for a few minutes, and then we'll put them back in this bowl. Want to stir them periodically so they don't burn. And I have left the leaves in with the celery that I've chopped. Not everybody does that, that's up to you. So I'm going to let this cook for a while, and then I'll be back. Now this is on the verge of being a little overdone, but it should be fine. So I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to start cooking the chicken in this pan. So I'm going to remove the sofrito, and I'll be right back. So next we're going to start searing the chicken, so more olive oil if needed. Once this is hot, which it will be in just a couple moments, then I will start adding the chicken to this pan. As a note, it's really important to keep the heat low when you're doing the sofrito to avoid burning it, but with the chicken we want the heat a little bit higher. And here we are, I think. This chicken is actually really big, as you can see, so kind of regretting doing 2 chickens here. But oh well, it'll work. And I'm just going to sear each side of this, and then I'll add more chicken. That way it all gets seared, and then we can start adding the wine. Okay, so now once these are looking pretty seared, I'm going to turn the heat way down. So basically to the lowest point it will go. And I'm going to add about 1/4 of a bottle of wine. And I'm going to stir this periodically and stew it. And the chicken is going to take on the color of the wine. And we're just going to let this cook for about 5 minutes, maybe 10. Also, at this point, we can add the sofrito back in. At this point, I like to salt it, so salt it like you would a stew. Be generous with the salt. And then in a couple minutes, we'll add the tomatoes. And now I'm going to add in tomatoes. We'll stir this in, and then we're going to let it cook and boil down a little bit. This may need a little more tomato too. If it needs more tomato, you can add passata or polpo or tomato paste even. But yeah, let's wait and see how this goes. Now, you should be getting eventually, and not too long, to the consistency of a nice thick sauce. If you haven't done that, then you can add some tomato paste to that. I think this is probably thick enough, but I have added some tomato paste just because sometimes, depending on the amount of chicken that you cook or how much water is in the chicken, it can basically release water into the sauce. And there are some other reasons that this can happen too. So you should be ready to add tomato paste if you have to. And I had to add it this time, but I don't always have to. So just keep that in mind. We're going to let this cook again for another 10 minutes, and then I'll check and see if it's done, and if so, we'll do the taste test. So to present, I'm just going to put a piece of this on the plate, and I'm going to top it with a little bit of the sauce, and then I'm going to set a few pieces of bread on the side like this. Now, if you want to add a little bit of color, you can sprinkle a little bit of chopped parsley or celery leaf onto the top like so. And here we have chicken cacciatore. Next up, the taste test. And now for the taste test. So it looks like I have a piece of chicken breast here. This is actually really moist. It has a wonderful complex set of flavors. It's light, but it's rich. It's really, 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 really very nice. Now, I'm going to take a piece of bread and I'm going to scoop up some of this sauce. I know the bottom of the bread's burned, but that's okay. This is really, really nice also. Yeah, I don't know what to say besides this is really, really nice. It's amazing. So if you find this content interesting, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment, and share. Additionally, I'd really love to hear from you if you make this dish and you do it a little differently. I'd love to hear all the variations that my wonderful user base already has on this particular dish. If you'd like to support my work, check out my Patreon page. I have a list of social media links in this description where you can find and follow my work elsewhere. And if you'd like to support me, as I say, check out my Patreon page. At any rate, recipes in the description. Bon appetit, and see you next week.